Hi, I'm Alexandra, a psychic spiritual counselor, and welcome to Alexandra's Psychic Eye. Beginning a new year brings a lot of anxiety for many. We anxiously wait for changes that we cynically believe will never come. We sense that there must be something different we need to do. But what is it? When thoughts like these occur, a change is at hand. Reconnecting with your original purpose for being here will bring more focus, more challenge, and opportunity. Stay with us as we guide you to unleash a whole new you for the new year. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Veronica Drake is an intuitive life coach, spiritual teacher, and author and founder of the Uology seminar workshops and programs that inspires individuals to explore their spiritual self and thereby discovering their hidden potential. And welcome to our show. It's great to have you.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Yeah, you're a really interesting lady.
Thank
and
you.
Our viewers are going to really enjoy you.
I hope so.
Oh, yes. Now, why do you feel more than ever that women need to empower themselves at this particular time, you know, in the history of humanity?
I think we go through different eras and different trials and tribulations as women, and you know, from the first movement to getting our rights to having labor rights and all of that, and now we're coming into a time in the world where the female energy is needed more than ever.
Why do you feel that?
Well, because what we've been doing hasn't worked.
And we need a little women energy.
We do.
You hear that, guys?
And what that means doesn't necessarily have to be a woman in gender, but just the whole energy thing. And what I relate to that is kindness and compassion and doing business with our hearts. And leading with our hearts as opposed to leading with our minds.
Well, I totally agree with you because in my psychic spiritual practice, I really emphasize that, a kind of a nurturing. In fact, when I was doing some work for the Style Channel before the new year, we got a very big response from the work that I did there. And one of the things they said was, Alexandra comes across very nurturing. So it told me that that's what people need. So I couldn't agree with you more. Now, you say that we are lost. Why are we lost? And maybe that's a blessing in disguise because I know that I reached, my greatest height when I was darkest before the dawn, when I had multiple sclerosis years ago, when I was healed. I was told you're fatally ill. So isn't that a blessing in disguise? Why are we lost? And why isn't that a blessing in disguise, Veronica?
I think a lot of the being lost can be attributed to the world we live in and where we've come to. We drive through to get our dinners. We text message our I love yous.
Yes, we're detached.
We do our banking at home. Some of us never even have to leave our houses. And so
isolated.
We begin to get caught up in this place up here, again, going back to the mind. And there comes a point in everyone's life, and I like to call it the 4 Ds: death, disease, disaster, or divorce. And when we hit one of those 4 Ds, we begin to realize just how lost we are. And so we go to our knees, and then we have nowhere else to go but to a higher place.
So, as I was saying to you, what came to me, Veronica, is what you're saying is when you get to that darkest place, that's when you know.
Absolutely.
It's time to, you hit that switch. Now it's time to hit the switch because it can only get better. It's darkest before the dawn.
And we've all had it. I mean, we've all had it. It just
Yes.
shows up differently.
Definitely. Now, many of my guests have described a turning point in their life, like yours, okay, where they find themselves standing on the edge of a precipice only to be awakened spiritually, which happened to me, which happened to so many people. Why do we need to come to that point to change our lives? Why?
You know, again, going back to coming out of the self, I like to refer to myself as a recovering narcissist. I would like to think of have thought of myself as the center of my own world.
Like all the people on the Seinfeld show, it's all about narcissism.
Absolutely.
It's all about me.
It's all about me.
It's all about
and I
me.
lived pretty much the 80s that way, all about me.
Yeah, that's how the 80s were. It's all about me.
And so then I realized that, this isn't working. And I was ready to check out, literally.
What do you mean?
Just physically end my life. I wasn't raised knowing or believing in God. It wasn't something, it was just this kind of out there concept. So I didn't really have anything
He's
to
there,
hold on to.
I'm here.
Exactly.
You didn't feel connected with God.
Exactly. And so I felt like I had nothing to hold on to. And we all hear those stories and we watch the shows where, this white light came over me. Well, the truth is, as I was going to kill myself in my car, the hair on the back of my neck stood up.
What do you mean you were going to kill yourself in your car?
I was careening my car and actually going to slam into the bridge and check out.
Oh my God.
I had hit rock bottom. Circumstances up to that point were just unbearable for me.
Oh my
and it was November 1996, and literally the hair on the back of my neck stood up, and I heard, "I've got you." And I didn't know what that meant, but I was willing to step on the brake and explore it. I thought it was worth a second look.
If I can ask, what brought you to that point where you would want to take your own life?
I had done the most terrible thing that women think they can do.
What's
The
that?
big A on the chest. The adultery. I had an affair. And it wasn't something that I'm proud of. It was a very torturous, literally physically torturous event for me.
My God.
The survival of it was based on how well I could love myself, and I didn't. And so when something like that happens, you go to that disaster, that dark place. And I want women to know that that isn't the end of your world. It doesn't mean you have to pack it in. It means you need to love yourself more and go deeper. And
I
that's
like
what God
that.
put in my heart.
I like that. So you really needed to do something very dramatic that you would view in a very negative, kind of loathsome way, and almost like, I'm taking my life, I don't deserve to live.
Absolutely.
To completely turn everything around.
Absolutely. I didn't feel worthy. I really
Wow.
didn't. I didn't feel worthy.
Wow. People do that with so many things. I mean, they really do. Wow.
Well, that has to do with the filters in our head, what we're
Yes.
taught to believe. And that's a lot of times what we base our own self-worth on.
Oh, definitely. Now, I would assume that broke up your marriage.
Interestingly enough,
'Cause I know you married twice.
yes, interestingly enough, we stayed together. He is an amazing man.
Really?
He's a saint. We have 2 beautiful children.
My goodness.
We get along very well. We were very young, and I don't have anger in my life or hostility. Our journeys just changed. We changed paths. He's very happy. I'm very happy. I don't leave anything unsaid, because if a bus hits me tomorrow, that's my favorite saying. I want everyone I love to know I love them.
Yes, that's right. Well, whenever you hear people speaking about someone that has passed away or something tragic, they always say, "I'm so glad that the last thing I said to them on the phone was, I love you."
Yeah.
My mother's in the audience, so I just looked over at her. Hi.
There isn't a day that goes by. I have 2 boys that we do the text message "I love yous," but that's the world we're in, and it's just a quick check-in.
People don't even realize that just to love yourself is the greatest love.
Oh.
And that's the hardest thing to do. because we are always coming down on ourselves, as you said.
Sure. How can I love you and know how to love you if I don't love me? I don't know what that looks like.
So you now explain uology. Let's go right into uology because you invented that term.
Oh.
I'm very excited about hearing that about your uology. That's your part of your work. You do many, many things. I mean, I have your book here. It's I don't know if I can get a little closer up. Thoughts, food. We get a little close up on the book. Let me see. Thoughts, food, and
Wine.
wine.
With an H.
Wine, as in whining, right? And bubble wrap.
Bubble wrap.
Before we go into uology, what's the explanation of that book?
The explanation.
It's a great book. I read it.
Thank you.
Cover to cover.
I
great.
wanted to create a book that was reflective of who I am. I have the attention span of an ant. I'm not a novel reader. It's not going to be, you'll never see me getting a novel out there.
Right.
And I really wanted to talk about the things that matter to me.
Yeah.
You know, thoughts. Our thoughts create our reality.
Absolutely.
Right? I mean, you
Thoughts
can think it, you can
are
be it.
things, yeah. What you think is what your world is.
Food.
Yep, food.
Women, as women, we're told if you're not a certain way or you don't look a certain way or,
Right.
you know, eat this cereal and you can wear these jeans that, you know, show your thong and all of that. Like, I wanted
Right.
to dispel the myth.
Right, the tall, thin.
Exactly. And we come in all
Blonde
shapes,
brunette,
sizes,
right.
and forms. The wine, I spent the whole decade of the 80s whining, so I know it well. I feel I'm the expert. I could talk about that.
Right. The whine about I'm not this, I'm not that, I think, yeah.
And how it creates dis-ease in the body and how it shows up on a cellular level
Yeah.
to physically make you sick.
Yes.
And the bubble wrap, which is my favorite word, think about what bubble wrap does. It protects something sacred, something special. When you get a package in the mail, if it's fragile, it's wrapped in bubble wrap. Well, that's what we do with ourselves as women. We wrap ourselves in bubble wrap. We don't want people to get close to us and bang into us in a grocery store and say, how are you? We want the surface. Oh, I'm fine, how are you?
Yes,
You know, we don't
yes.
want you to know little Johnny broke a window, the neighbor's window with a stone, and the husband's having an affair. We don't want you to know our
The
business.
detachment.
Exactly.
So uology. Talk about uology. What is that?
Well, I think
Sounds great.
that was born off of my narcissistic view on the world. what better to study than me, right?
All right.
So I figured before I could help women, I needed to study me, you know, uology, the study of you. And so I created a program with worksheets and homework that
Really?
really focus on you as a woman.
Now, how do people how do you get to uology? You want on the internet? Like, how would I get to?
VeronicaDrake.net. I'm Googleable, finally. You know, I'm the top.
So, like,
you
if
know.
I want to go into uology, I just go to Veronica Drake.
Yeah, VeronicaDrake.net, and you can click on my programs, and it's all
Right.
there.
Yeah. See, my people that need to get to me for help, whatever, they just go to Alexandra Psychic. So for you, it would be Veronica Drake.
Right.
And they'll see uology. Now, let's say I walk in, I'm really a mess, I'm at the end of, you know, I'm like, I want to kill myself. How are you going to help me? What are you going to do?
Well, I'm a trained coach, and what that means
A
is
life coach.
A life coach.
A life coach.
I was trained to know the difference between psychology, which is the study and looking at your history.
I don't know if you know I'm a psychologist.
I do know that, and I'm fascinated. I think in another life I was a psychologist. But your
So
coaching,
you're crazy too.
I am crazy. Coaching deals with your destiny. Where do you want to go? So very quickly, if we have a consultation, which I do offer, the free 10-minute consultation, I can assess if I can help you. I know if it becomes a psychology issue, I'm not trained to do that. I can.
So you would refer
Absolutely.
to a psychologist.
Absolutely.
You have to do that. That's wonderful. Now, the uology, what is the approach that you're taking with that? What is that all about? What is the...
Well, it's introducing women to themselves and helping them to realize and learn how to navigate to live life by design instead of by default.